is also happening. We are live streaming today, and it will be placed on YouTube at a later point. So I'm Mark Womack. I'm the alumni officer here at the Faculty of Mathematics, and it's my pleasure today to welcome everyone and get the introductions going. Quick little bit about the awards. You're going to be hearing from 3 people today. The Alumni Achievement Awards were started in 2002 as a way to honor outstanding alumni who have distinguished themselves in their field after study. The Young Alumni Achievement Award, which will be our first speaker, was originated in 2011 by our former dean, Ian Goulden, who will be introducing our speaker, to recognize alumni who had been out of school for approximately 10 years and were under 36 years of age. So today's our first Alumni Achievement Award winner. Ian will introduce, and I'll turn the mic over to him.
Thank you, Mark. So did you say I'm here because I'm under 36 years old? Yes, thank you. I've been an instructor at the University of Waterloo for 40 years. Yeah, 40 years. And I've always been impressed with how clever our students are and generally how hardworking they are. And never more so than the last year when I started teaching again after 6 years of being dean and doing other less than useful things. One of the wonderful things, however, about being dean is you get given credit for things that you had nothing whatsoever to do with except saying, yes, that's a good idea. And in particular, Young Alumni Achievement Award winners, and I'm very pleased that we started this. I was on the Alumni Achievement Award Committee starting in 2002 when we started the award. And having seen all the clever students for so many years doing mathematics, I was really amazed to see what our many graduates have turned their hand to after graduation. I think it breaks a lot of the stereotypes of boring mathies to anyone who's not a mathy here. And so we're very proud of our alums, and in particular, Joanna Duong is here today, a 2004 graduate in business administration. Joanna was a co-op student, but she also managed to work in exchange terms through Queen's and McGill, one of them at a castle in Europe, where I don't think she did a thing except get I think 50 plus epsilon is what you're supposed to get on an exchange term. I know my nieces and nephews have told me that. So she's clearly, from those days, was an energy-packed person. Since graduation 2004, she's worked at Xerox and done some real estate, and then started part-time a business called Henkaa. In 2009, I think she started it, and then I suppose she turned it into something busy enough even for her that she turned to it full-time in 2011. So Henkaa has been awarded, or Joanna, as one of Canada's top female entrepreneurs by Profit and Chatelaine magazines. I think she has an interesting story to tell, so I won't interrupt for much longer. I looked for something with branding outside, and there's this card here. I think it's for bridesmaids, and it looks familiar to me as a father of teenage daughters when we're looking for those prom dresses. But they know I have no fashion sense, and so I won't comment on Joanna's fashion business, except to say that I know that the "Hey Gorgeous" on this card was not intended for me, but perhaps for her. So I'll turn things over to Joanna. Welcome back, and thank you so much for coming to tell your story.
Thank you. Oh, I didn't need the mic. Okay, thank you. Thank you. You weren't supposed to reveal the dirty secret about going on exchange terms. And I'm glad that the award just, it's 36 and under, right? Because I just scratched through. So thank you so much for having me today. It's an incredible honor to be here. When I got the email from Mark, it kind of went to my junk a couple times, and when I finally saw it, I was like, oh, I definitely have to do this because I haven't been back here for over 14 years, I think now, which is a really long time, and it's been incredible to see all the amazing things that have been built and that are going on. Like, this building didn't even exist when I was here, which is crazy, and just seeing all of the, keeping in touch with the alumni newsletters and stuff, and seeing all the amazing things that my fellow alumni are doing, it's awesome, and I'm so honored to be a part of this. So, and thank you for that great introduction. So Henkaa is my business, and today I'm going to talk about change. So to get us going, it really doesn't matter where you start, only that you begin. So I got here, I'm going to give the obligatory background of me. I'd like to say I'm just another snowflake. Of course, we're all unique in our own ways. My quick bullet points are, I come from a first-generation immigrant family. I'm the youngest of 5 siblings. I have an older brother and 3 sisters, and I'm the youngest girl. So that was fun times. We grew up pretty economically challenged and in a pretty economically challenged area in the city. So things weren't always that easy, and I was always hungry and curious. And when I got here, I think the great thing is that you're kind of starting from scratch. It doesn't matter where you came from. You have all the opportunity and everything to achieve and do whatever it is that your heart desires. So I did a quick Google search before, when I was putting this together, because I remembered back in 2004, I actually appeared on the math bulletin, and this is me causing a ruckus at the castle in Hearst-Wansua, which is owned by McGill. So I ended up doing a quick talk that day about exchange opportunities, and if any of you do still have the opportunity to do something like that, I would strongly encourage it. Because while this is a great, obviously, university, sometimes it's nice seeing and being able to see what else is out there as well, and I also got to travel while I was there, so it was an amazing time. So. The greatest thing, though, I think, in coming here, looking back in hindsight, because if you would have asked me 17 years ago when I started if I would be standing here speaking, I would have laughed, because I wasn't always the greatest student, and a lot of times I don't know if I had any clue what I was doing. And when I look back, I think part of the reason was because I wasn't necessarily always open to change. I remember writing a piece on my blog on Xanga, which is a platform that doesn't, I think it still exists, but not so much, that said that I'm just a girl looking for consistency in a world of change. And now I think about the world and think about where I am and realize how kind of backwards that thinking was, because in reality, the only constant in life is change. And I feel like at Waterloo, this place really does give you a crash course in change. I finished with math, business, and min, but I started out in computer science, so I actually changed majors when I was here. You're always changing between school and work terms if you're in co-op, of course. I change homes all the time, so went from residence to living off residence, and every 4 months changing where I lived. To change cities and universities, of course, because I did some exchanges. Changed social circles, met new friends, and changed my mindset, and of course my experience, because I was learning day in and day out. And really that changed my life. And by the very act of just being here, change is going to happen. It's a certainty. So yes, change is constant. So what does that mean? Really, I think that I kind of took a little unconventional approach, because I did do a couple of co-op terms, and the great thing about that too is it allowed me to have some work experience. I programmed for a couple of terms, and it was because of that experience that I realized that, maybe this isn't necessarily for me. I laugh even imagine myself being a coder now, but having that experience while I was in school gave me the chance to see that maybe I'd want to explore something else, and it was a safe place for me to do so here, and it allowed me to be keep an open mind, be curious, be hungry, because you have all the abilities to do what you want to do while you're here in this setting. And it's really not necessarily the contents of the CS 101 course, or any course that you take in particular that's going to stay with you. What I think has stayed with me the most from being here is just the capacity to learn and grow, the ability to adapt to all the changes that are coming at you, whether you are ready for them or not. It's the discipline to achieve, because we do want to get out of here and get that degree on the wall. And the realization of the possibilities and the pursuit of the opportunities that are available to you. And with that, that is like the toolkit to handle life, business, and anything that life throws your way. You have all the tools, and you can build all those tools you need to triumph from here. So when I did graduate, as Ian mentioned, I started out working 100% commission sales role at Xerox, much to my parents' dismay. They thought I was crazy. But I wanted the best sales training there was available, and that's what Xerox was offering at the time, so I took it. And I did really well in that. And then I earned enough to buy my first place. So then I went out real estate shopping. I fell in love with real estate. And seeing what was happening with selling copiers, that the price was going down every day and I was expected to sell more, I was like, why don't I sell the most expensive thing there is to sell? So that's kind of how I got into real estate. And I did that for 7 years. Again, 100% commissions. My parents, again, thought I was crazy. And I think I must have given them a heart attack. But they kind of went with it. And everyone, at some time said to me, this is completely unrelated to what you went to school for. And I didn't think so at all, because the skills that you take from business, from change, from all your experiences that you have, it may not seem conventional, but if you're building things, if you're growing, you're going to be faced with decisions, and you're going to be faced with things, and it doesn't matter what your degree said. Like, if you embrace what you're doing, it's going to apply if you find the lessons and are able to connect the dots. So after I did real estate for a good 7 years, I think I had, back I remember when we were in school, it was like the 4-month itch, right? Like you're switching from co-op to work term, co-op to work term. And I just thought, I've been doing this for a while, and it's great, and I like the success that I've achieved with it, but there must be more out there. And I started reading, and I stumbled across the 4-hour work week. And then I was like, oh, I want that. I want a 4-hour work week. So I was like, okay, what can I do on the side? Yeah, I kind of like fashion. And at that time, it was 2009, and we were in the midst of a recession. And I remember airlines just started charging for suitcases, and I was like, this is so crazy that I have to pay for a suitcase, because all I want is the security of having a lot of different options or outfits, but I don't want to pack my entire closet in here. So I thought, how great would it be to have a one piece that you can change up and wear in different ways? So have fashion that changed with you. So then, with that idea and my glassy eyes and big dreams, I dove right in and started Henkaa. So again, Henkaa is a fashion brand that's centered around change. I had no fashion background, and with my first design, I say I Frankensteined it, because all I really did was I took a bunch of things that I owned, and I reverse engineered what I wanted to come out of it. And the manufacturers thought I was crazy, but they only did it because it was a friend of a friend, and they were doing it as a favor. So I kind of got lucky there. But I came up with my prototype, and I started wearing it out, and it kind of took off. And what I realized was that I was solving a real problem that people had, that women had out there. And in doing that, that's how I was able to build a business. So a question that a lot of people ask me is, what does Henkaa mean? What does it stand for? So it's actually the Japanese word for change, or transformation in English. And I have a little story about how I came up with it, because it actually took me 4 months to develop that name. When I started the company, since the concept was changeable clothes, I actually called it convertible clothes or something like that. And it was a very long domain. I remember thinking to myself, I don't want such a long domain, and that's so descriptive. It's not really anything that I can brand. So what can I call it instead? I exhausted everything in the English language, and again, I didn't want a long domain. So I opened up Google Translate, and I was like, okay, let me start typing in some words and see what pops out. And I typed in change, and then I changed it to German, French, and then I put it in Japanese, and Henkaa popped up. And you'll notice it's Henkaa with one A. And then I checked on GoDaddy for the domain, and it wasn't available. So I was like, oh no, I really, really like this, but it's not available. So I flexed my geeky little math muscles, and I was like, well, what if I added a second A to it that would feminize it, but then now I'd be like a derivative of change. So that's actually how I came up with the name. I checked on GoDaddy, and it was available, and that's how Henkaa was born. And of course, I loved it enough because it was abstract, and I always got the question of like, what does Henkaa mean? And we know now in business, everything is about storytelling and telling a story, so I had a good story to tell with it. The premise is that everything we carry, you can wear in more than one way. And when you start adding jewelry and accessories to it, then the possibilities are endless. It's infinite. And of course, you see on a couple of our mannequins there. So I like to say, just a simple way, it's like the Transformers of fashion. It's more than meets the eye. So we did make a splash. When I started in 2009, it was started in my basement, the basement of our rented home. And I had no idea what I was doing. And when I was asked, like, kind of when I decided even to move this to full time, it was because I'd just been doing it on the side, and I realized after doing our taxes for the business one year that I was like, oh, this actually made some income. Maybe I'm onto something. So it wasn't until 2011 that I actually pursued it full time. And after that, in 2013, we actually made it on the Profit Hot 50, which is honors like Canada's top growth companies, and I think we had over 1,000% growth. So we landed on the 15th spot, and then I ended up making it on the Chatelaine list a couple of times, and we won a couple of other awards. So there was a lot of fast traction, and things happened really, really quickly. And of course, we're really honored to receive that, all the awards and recognition, but then sometimes, like when you're in the midst of it, a lot of people think that, you get ready, like I love this because it says, so you think you arrived, start chilling your champagne, because that's just the start. Starting out really is just starting out. It's growing and all the catching up with your growth and sustaining that growth, that is the tough part for sure. So I kind of call this the end of entrepreneurship, because it really is where you need to shift to the new stage and become a leader to make it in the long haul. Entrepreneurship is a roller coaster ride, and I say this to my team all the time, that what got us here isn't going to get us there to the next step. And like, business is tough. I feel like if I knew now, maybe if I was to start now, knowing what I know now, I'd question it, because I think it takes, because I was naive back then and a little glassy-eyed. But again, I feel like the background that I had and the ability to adapt to change has really served me well. And I know that I have to continue to change and continue to grow, because growth is iterative, and it's okay to not know what you're doing, and it's okay to learn as you go, as long as you keep learning and as long as you keep wanting to learn to pursue that growth. Because change these days is fast and furious. Like, it is, I can't even, like, I think we've re-platformed the business a number of times. We've made so many technology changes, like Snapchat, like Instagram was just starting when I started. Like, I never used to understand, sometimes I remember I was working at Co-op Terms, so I was like, how come things move so slowly? Because change is, it's not that it's moving slowly, things are moving quickly, but to like reset or to like get yourself back to ground zero, to put yourself in the position to change is sometimes what takes a long time or is incredibly difficult to do. And I've experienced that firsthand. I'm very much an instant gratification person, and I want things yesterday. But in running this business, I realized more than ever that that's not always possible at the speed of light that things are changing with too. So it's like finding that balance. to do what we can to keep and stay on top. Because products change, preferences change, trends change, channels change. Like something that we're facing in retail right now is like the kind of death of the mall, right? Everybody's going online shopping now, and it's like, how do you find the balance between an online and an offline experience? It's an art that I don't think anybody has perfected yet, and it's something that continuously needs fine-tuning, and it's something that like it's on my mind and I lose sleep about like all the time. And tactics change, so also what worked before doesn't work anymore or doesn't work as well. So when you hopped on like Instagram to begin with, and there wasn't a lot of competition on there, it was great. Same with Pinterest, same with Snapchat. But then once it becomes mainstream, what worked doesn't work anymore. So how do you find like the bright, shiny new squirrel, but still keep doing what you thought would work and find that balance? So this stuff is difficult, and this stuff is what you're gonna have to face, or what any business personally you have to face above and beyond what you leave like school with, or what you leave any course or educational pursuit. So constantly learning is key. So one of the things that we've been undergoing recently is a branding change. So talking about how tough it is, this is just a surface thing, but I feel like myself, because I am in fashion, but I wouldn't necessarily call myself a fashion designer, that when I started out, everything was very much practical, very much like, okay, this is good enough, but that's not the space that I play in. So we've had to undergo tremendous change. So even just looking at where we were and where we're going, or where we're moving towards, it's a tremendous difference. It's like a complete reinvention, and it may seem simple, like, oh, we just printed like a new logo, or like designed a new logo and like changed a few banners. But there's so much thinking, planning, development required, because even though this is on the surface, your image is what people think of you. It's how you're expressing yourself in the world. It's your messaging. It's what people can connect to or disconnect from if they don't find that it resonates. So the branding changes are something that we're undergoing right now, and it's crazy. Like I would have never appreciated how much work goes into it. Everything from changing your, like redoing photography, to like redoing all the messaging on your site, to changing your experience and how somebody experiences you online, in the store, how you're merchandised, everything like that. There's so many moving parts, and it's all part of being, again, open to change, because you can't stay the way you were if you want to survive. So this chart here shows, going from traction to growth. So I mentioned we got a lot of early traction. So how do I take that and turn it into something sustainable? And a lot of the things in this chart are so bang on and consistent with where we are. So this transition phase, it's kind of like an awkward tween stage, because I know where we want to go, I know where we are and what got us to where we are. But how do we bridge that delta, that gap, and get to where we want to go going forward? And for me, like the most challenging part, I would say, has been that last row where it says team, where it went from me to like a couple of other people to now having to scale the business to multiple people. And it's not all about my crazy ideas now, or like what I can do. It's about how can replicate me, or enable and empower other people. And there's a lot of talk about millennial workforce, how things are changing, just like workforce in general. And this has been an incredible challenge, but also an incredible opportunity. And that's the other reason why I wanted to be here, because you guys are so young and bright, and you are the future. And I'm still learning every day and trying to figure out how I can best work with you. So I figured, why not just come and immerse myself in it? But this has been this is where I'm at right now. And even though like on the surface, it does seem like we've made it. I feel like we've just begun. So change is hard at first, messy in the middle, and gorgeous at the end. Couldn't be truer. And I want to put this, take it from a genius. Of course, we all know that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So I've been on this Henkaa journey for 7 years now. And it's been a long 7 years. I know it doesn't seem like that long, but it almost feels like a lifetime for me. And I think a big chunk of that time, I was kind of kicking and screaming because it didn't hit me, until not fairly recently, but fairly recently, what an incredible responsibility that I had taken on. And that if I did want to take the business where I wanted to go, then I would have to change. And that there's no ifs, ands, or buts to that, because I couldn't be the same me if I wanted to be the me that the business needed, that my family needed, that the world needed. But the fear of change is real. People fear failure, of course. They fear pain and discomfort. They fear success. They fear criticism, the new and the unknown. I never realized how much, whether you're prepared for it or not, that you resist change. Because humans are creatures of habit. We like things to stay the same, but of course that's never going to be the case. And even thinking to myself that I was prepped and I'm ready for it, it still doesn't make it any easier. And in the midst of building the business as well, you have the business change, but then you also have personal change. So throughout this entire journey, all my friends got married. I started the business, then I got engaged and married myself. Got pregnant, had a baby. This is my little child labor. I put her to work already at 10 days old, wearing a dress, continuing to work, and she's grown up a bit. And I don't have the updates here, but I actually have another son now, so I have 2 kids. And being a wife, being a good friend, and being a mother has also demanded changes that I can't even put into words what is involved with that. It's just tremendous, and it's life-changing, and it's no sleep and crazy, but the most beautiful thing in the world. So balancing all of this with your career, with your life, and with your work, it's just change everywhere. But there's no blueprint for success. And I think part of it is being gentle with yourself, and what I've been focusing on and trying to learn myself, that everybody does think that it's a straight line. I thought it was a straight line, but it's the messiest thing ever. It's laced with milestones and setbacks, successes and failures, and just absolute insanity at times. And I know one day maybe I'll look back, because I'm still, and be like, wow, I can't believe how I got through this. But you do, and you can. And it's one step at a time. And it's just one step at a time. There is, I wish I could give you a silver bullet. I'm still looking for it myself. But there's no template. I know that out there, all the most popular articles you read on the blogs these days say 10 ways to your way to success, or 5 ways to do this. But really, everybody's a unique snowflake, right? And not everybody's going to work for everybody. So not everything's going to work for everyone. So it's very difficult to generalize that. And really, there is no hard, tried and true way, because we're still all learning, and we're all learning in a world that's changing, and things are always going to be different. So just kind of keep your head up and take it a day at a time, and just embrace this and enjoy the ride. So I love this quote too, and I had read something that that said, like even if you think you're on the right track, like if you stay there, you're going to get run over by it. You might get run over. So just know that whatever your goals are, it's not necessarily the goals, because your goals might change. It's what you and who you become by achieving your goals that's most important. So enjoy the ride, embrace the journey, and let it take you where it's going to go. And it might not all be seem like it makes sense, but someday it will. And at least that's what I'm telling myself too. So I'm going to end with this, because everything changes has been the Henkaa's company tagline motto since we started. And in realizing, even on my journey, all the things that I've learned, it's been the foundation of the business, and it's been what has been spread across every piece of communication that we've put out there. And then going through the rebranding exercise, I realized, pretty harsh reality, that I built my foundation upon a saying or something that people are afraid of, that maybe doesn't connect with everyone. In seeing that flyer, we do a lot of weddings, and people use our dresses for bridesmaids, and the benefits are such that you can have girls of all different shapes, sizes, and body types and style preferences, and they can all wear the same dress styled differently, and solves that challenge of finding one thing that looks good for everybody. So it's the bride that's the decision maker, and my tagline is everything changes. She's just about to make one of the most biggest commitments in her life, and I'm selling her change. So it's completely not in alignment, and it's taken me 7 years to discover this. So, while we've grown, if I want to take it to the next step, I too have had to go back and rebuild or redevelop my foundation so that I can take it to the next stage. And so I've actually wiped that out, and now it's embrace change. Change is a matter of fact, but it's what you do with it that's gonna define you going forward. So, last but not least, it's be the change that you want to see in the world. The words of Gandhi. So, thank you again for your time, and I appreciate you staying and listening to me today. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. We do have a few minutes before we start to change over to the next speaker. So if anyone has any questions, we'd love to hear them, but I do get to ask the first one. That's part of the thing here. And before we go on, I do want to introduce your husband, Stan, came along with you today.
Yes.
And I know he's been an integral part of your business and your life, and we just want to acknowledge him as well.
My rock.
Your rock. And he's also a math grad, yes. So we know. So math, right?
Yes.
Awesome. First question then I get is, obviously you're a successful real estate agent in a Toronto market, which was hot, even in the recession. How difficult was it to make the decision to give all that up, the security, the money, quite frankly, to start your own fashion line?
That's a great question, and I still ask myself that every day, because as we all know, the Toronto market has been absolutely insane. I think it came down to, part of it was lifestyle as well. So behind the glitz and glamour of starting a business, behind the glitz and glamour of being a real estate agent too, it's what you want for your life. I remember I was on, I'd say, cloud 9, top of the world when I was in real estate. I hit my quarter life crisis, like I say, when I was 25, because I kind of had everything that I thought I'd wanted. Had the nice car, had my own place, I was earning good money, but it was the life that I didn't want, because my weekends and weeknights were never free. And I was not a reliable person. I could plan something, with a family months and months in advance, but if I had to do an offer that night, it's see you later, because there was a whole bunch of other real estate agents lurking in the background to take a client. So I think part of it was life change. lifestyle change. And then the other thing for me was wanting to do something bigger. Because while I loved real estate, and I still do, I wanted to kind of make my dent in the universe, and I just wanted to try my hand out at something else.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? We do have a microphone because we are live streaming. Oh, we have one there, please.
I actually have two, if you're willing, in your time.
Yay.
The first one is there someone from whom you drew inspiration? Someone in particular, a mentor? And the second question is how much you feel adversity that you spoke about fueled your passion and your drive for your entrepreneurial spirit?
Particular mentors in general, like in my life, like directly, I wouldn't, I've had a couple, but not so much as like my virtual mentors, which are mentors that I read in books. So like the Sarah Blakely who started Spanx, there's the Stella and Dot founder, Jessica Heron. So I went out to like the bigger mentors, although I do have a mentor who was one of the early founders in Lululemon. And I speak to him on the regular, and he makes me feel normal and sane. So it is incredibly important to find mentors. And if it's not live ones that you can reach out to, it's like finding the virtual ones. I consume myself in books and articles like all the time, and just seeing that that's what's possible did take a big part in driving me to want to pursue what I've been pursuing. And in terms of like my background, I do think it has a big part of it. Like I would be silly to say that or discount my past. However, if I look at my siblings and I, we are also very different too. So I can't say that that was the cause or the driving force. I think for me, like to be very honest, and you can ask my husband too, I'm just curious. Like I have like an insatiable desire and thirst for knowledge, and I just go down one rabbit hole after the next, and I constantly want to try and experiment things and continuously learn and grow. And I just, I guess I found the place that I could do it, and I'm doing it.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions? Oh, we have one over there. I'm going to ask a quick question just while the mic's getting to you. I heard a rumor, or I saw a rumor during my research that you were on Dragon's Den.
Oh, yeah.
And I want to know how scary that was actually facing that crowd.
Oh, yeah, so I did audition for season 11, which is the one that's going on right now, and I'm not at liberty to talk about it. But it was a pretty crazy experience. It's like there's just so many lights like on you that I like the whole thing. I feel like it was a blur, but it was a very interesting experience. And like I wrote a series of articles about the experience too, about how to prepare for it and stuff. But in the same way, like as much as you try to prepare for it, like you don't always know what's coming. So just keep an open mind, but know your numbers, know your business, and they're dragons for sure.
Thank you. We're going to take the final question then, right over there.
Hi, I'm Jasbel. I'm a current president for Math Society right now.
Yeah.
So a lot of things you said resonate right now because 50th, we want to do a rebrand for Math Talk as well, all that. So my question is more along the line of, so yesterday was Bill Let's Talk. So I was wondering, were there a period of time where the stress of wanting to succeed and the fear of everything, criticism, opinions from people you care about, the stress of like knowing that your parents thought something else for you and then you didn't go their path, like were there points in your life where it just like everything came to a point where you're like, I can't handle it? Like, did you ever have that point, and like how did you go past it?
Yes, that is a really, really like a great question that I feel like it doesn't get talked about enough, which is great that Belle's doing this whole let's talk thing. For my parents, my poor parents, like I feel so bad for them to have to go through having me as a child, because yes, I didn't follow the path that they thought or wanted. I felt I broke their heart a bit, like every little time that I decided to make a big jump, because just when they got comfortable, it's like, you know what, I'm gonna pull the rug out under you and start something different. So by the time I switched to the third business, I actually kind of didn't tell them. I was just like, okay, I'm just gonna do my thing, and they think I'm in real estate, they won't know any different. And it wasn't until, you know, I won an award that I told them, I said, yeah, okay, yeah, I'm doing this full time now, and like I won something. So then I kind of already made it a little bit so that it made them feel comfortable. But in terms of the ups and downs, I'd be lying to you if I told you that I wasn't down, I haven't been down in the dumps, or that like sometimes I'm still not, because there is so much pressure. A lot of it is self-inflicted as well, because I want to achieve, I want to be successful, but it is realizing that, you know what, nobody knows what they're doing, you know, and that we live in a day and time right now where your biggest fear realized might not even be that bad. Like, what is it? Like, we have like healthcare, we have shelter, we have so many accesses to services and to people that, like, if I was to have realized my biggest fear that, you know, this business didn't work, and it might not. You know, I'm not naive to think that like this is like 100% guarantee or certainty that it'll work. I am working on it, but something might change, and who knows. So it's living with the fear, living with the everything, and just trying to find a way to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, because every day you're going to be uncomfortable. It's like, I'm uncomfortable every day. I'm uncomfortable here, but I'm doing it anyways, you know, and it's stepping into it and like embracing it and owning it and just like taking it as it comes. Because a lot of the times what you're scared of are things that might or might not even happen. So I've had to make a lot of decisions without enough information. I've had to trust my gut, trust what I read, trust what, you know, I was advised, and you kind of just figure it out. I don't know if that answers it, but it's been hard, and it's been hard on me too. It's been hard on my husband. It's been hard on my family. This whole illusion of balance, like, I think it's an illusion, you know, because sometimes you have to be all in, and you know, there's a time and a place for everything. So when I had my kids, one of them I had 3 weeks mat leave, and then the second one I had 3 months, you know, and it's dealing with guilt too, right? It's never met, but there's so many things you can do to make it work for you, and your normal is not everybody else's normal, and just be comfortable with your normal.
Thank you, Joanna. Just before everybody, we're about to reset for our next speaker, but Joanna has thrown a little surprise our way. So you did get some tickets, or a ticket as you entered, and Joanna very graciously decided to bring down a couple gifts.
Yes.
So if I can ask one of the alumni staff to bring in the tickets, and while we're waiting for that, although we'll be recognizing you tonight, Joanna, and your achievement at our awards ceremony, we do have a small gift for you.
Thank you.
From the Faculty of Math to celebrate the 50th anniversary as well.
Thank you so
So
much.
just while we're waiting for the tickets, we'll get ready for the next session.
So while we do have like women's, or we specialize in women's fashion, because we do a lot of bridal parties events, we have some men's stuff as well, and we sell men's ties and pocket squares. So squares is one of the gifts that I had to give away.
It's a good thing, because I would look good in a dress.
Being that we are mathies, of course, there are a couple of pink ties. So I'll just wait for the tickets.
Just waiting on the tickets. Bear with us for a moment.
Yeah.
I'll put it on the table here. Sorry, it's a long hallway. Absolutely.
So our timelines are a lot quicker. I can take something from prototype to production, I'd say, in about 2 months, 2 to 3 months, which is pretty quick, but I know it still seems like a long time, but we have to manufacture in bulk, of course, right? If you're doing it like as custom orders, it could be faster, but it does take about 2 months. Yeah, it is. So I say like it's reverse engineering almost. It's like, okay, well, how can I make this such that I can do as many things as possible to it? And a lot of it is trial and error. It's experimentation too. So we've gone through patterns after patterns, and like, you know, if it's just not right, you just keep going until you get what you want.
Alrighty, I know the tickets are coming, honest, I promise. So while we wait, the next speaker will be William Joe, so you know, from chalk.com. And once we get the tickets drawn, we'll have a few minutes break just in between the two sessions. So